Hello class, my name is Prince Anderson. Today I'll be going over the effects of concurrent resistance and aerobic training on load-bearing performance in the Army Physical Fitness Test. For the first slide, I have the title page. The slide following that, I have the table of contents. The slide following that, I have concurrent training. So some may ask exactly what is concurrent training? Concurrent training can be defined as a combination in both resistance and aerobic training. It is also a form of training which all energy systems are going to be emphasized at some point within the program. For the study that I'll be going over, the concurrent training groups will be the resistance plus the endurance training, as well as the upper body and endurance training. Concurrent training includes high intensity interval training, which is referred to as HIIT, and also sprint interval training, which is referred to as SIT. Concurrent training can easily be seen in circuit training, which is done for a period of time in this study. And studies have also shown that resistance training and endurance training, or the addition of resistance training alone, has shown a high-end performance on maximal and repetitive box lifting and loaded marching. And this was done in a study in the British Army Basic Training. For the next slide, I'll be going over the cohorts. The cohorts comprised of 35 physically active males who are in active duty in the U.S. Army. The subjects volunteered and provided informed consent prior to the study. All subjects were screened and proceeded to have no medical history that prevented them from volunteering in the study. The subjects, they were housed, fed, they trained, tested at the base at U.S. Army Natick Research and Engineering Center, which is in Natick, Massachusetts. And there were 4 groups that comprise the study essentially. And those 4 groups, they are resistance training with endurance training, RT plus ET, upper body training and endurance training, which is UB plus ET, and resistance training only, which is referred to as RT, and then the endurance training only, which is referred to as ET. So for the next slide, I'll be going over the training program. Exercises were performed 4 days per week, Monday through Thursday. All sessions were individually supervised. Endurance training started at approximately 8 o'clock a.m. and resistance training workout started at approximately 1 o'clock p.m. Combined resistance training and endurance training and upper body and resistance training waited for about 5 to 6 hours after their endurance workout to perform resistance training. All subjects completed 100% of their training sessions. Resistance training programs consisted of varied workouts within each week, and this would include nonlinear periodization. Endurance training consisted of long distance and sprint interval training, which is referred to as SIT. For the next slide, I'll be going over the results. There were no injuries observed during the study aside from a participant dropping out due to an acute hernia in the endurance training group. The Army Physical Fitness Test performance responded positively to training. All groups improved in the push-up performance and repetitions during the 2-minute testing. The groups with resistance training showed larger gains in the push-up category, approximately 35 to 43%, and for the endurance training, there was an increase for approximately 18%. All groups increased sit-up performance, including repetitions in the 2-minute testing. All groups showed decreased times in the unloaded 2-mile run time and testing. There were no changes observed for heart rate or for ratings of perceived exertion immediately after the 2-mile loaded run. For the next slide, it's going to be results continued. The only groups performing concurrent training showed significant improvements in time to competition. Only 2 groups performing resistance training, which involved multi-joint exercises for the legs, showed significant increased jump height. And these groups included resistance training plus endurance training, along with resistance training alone, which was referred to as RT. All groups performing endurance training decreased their percentage body fat, whereas All groups performing resistance training increased fat-free mass. And for the next slide, I have the sources, and that's pretty much going to be it for this study.